Hi and welcome to this session about DATEX 2 extensions. My name is Jonas Jäderberg. Why do we need extensions? DATEX 2 is nowadays huge and has a lot of information related to the traffic domain, but still users have different needs and requirements. For example, from national deployments and projects. And with extensions, we can add those missing things. So you can almost always use DATEX 2, even if your special requirement is not part of the standard. So how can DATEX 2 be extended? DATEX 2 was designed from the beginning to be extended. The extension mechanism is defined in part 1 of the methodology. And the recommended way to do the extensions is in the UML model. So you will do UML modeling of your extensions. We have different kinds of levels of models and extensions. A level A model is a core model that has been harmonized and standardized or in the process for standardization. We talk about the stable namespaces in level A, and that is a namespace that will not change. A level B model do have level B extensions added, and it's full interoperable with level A. A level B extension will not break a level B instance client. A level A client can understand the level A part of any level B instance. A level A client shall silently ignore any unknown level B part. Two different level B clients can understand each other's level A part. A commonly used level B extension could be a candidate for inclusion in level A in the future. A level C model have no interoperability with level A and B whatsoever. It just uses the same methodology and tools, but it can still reuse parts of the model, but it's not interoperable. So normally we do level B extension. To get this to work, we need some rules. And what we can do is that we can add attributes to new or existing classes. We can add associations to new or existing classes. We can create new classes, enumerations, and data types. We can reuse existing classes, enumerations, and data types. Not allowed to change anything in the existing classes, attributes, and enumerations. So remark the apostrophes around add above because we have to do this add in a special way so we don't break this. Tool support for this, which is the normal tool support we have in DATEX 2. We use Enterprise Architect for UML modeling, and we do import and export with XMI. And we have a schema generation tool where we take from UML, we go to XMI, we import that into the web tool, and from the web tool, we export the XML schema, the XSD. And of course, in the web tool, we also have the selection feature. So how does this work in UML? Here we see the emission class that has been extended by this emission extension. We have used a special UML construct that is in our UML profile with a D2 level B extension stereotype. So this is a way to tell that this is an extension. This class, emission extension, is what we normally say it's an extension class. That's the holds our extension. And the same for the enumeration. Emission classification EuroEnum is from level A, and we added and extended this with this enumeration. So we added those literals, you could say, to this enumeration. I will come back to this later on when I show this hands-on. So how does this work in XSD, the XML schema? The XML schema is prepared to be extended with extension points. All classes have an underscore class name extension element. All enumerations are prepared to be extended. Some hook classes have been added to be able to extend static base classes like situation record and payload publication. We find this in the model with the generic payload publication and the generic situation record, for example. So how does it look like? This is an unextended class, visibility, and we can see that we have an underscore visibility extension added at the end of each complex type, and its type is an underscore extension type. You see here the underscore extension type, it has the XSN inside, and this means that it can include anything. Anything you put there will validate. So this is how the unextended class can validate anything. It is prepared to find things that it doesn't understand. And the extended class looks like this. Here we have period, which has been extended. So it has the underscore period extension, but here we see the difference. It has a underscore period extension type. So it's not the underscore extension type. And this underscore period extension type is pointing to our extension class, period extended. So that would hold the content of our extension. And for enumeration, an unextended enumeration, which has been prepared for understanding extensions, has got an attribute underscore extended value of type string. So it can accept anything here. It's a string. And the enumeration literals, it has added one underscore extended. So if we look at an extended enumeration, we have an underscore load type enum. We see that it has an attribute underscore extended value, but instead of being a string, it has an underscore load type enum extension type. So this points to our new extended values, which we see here on the right. So here we can see that it adds two values, dangerous squads and passengers. And the load type enum, we can see it has the underscore extended added. So now let's create an extension and see how it works. I have made something up. I'd like us to create a DATEX user forum event. And I'd like this event to hold address information, number of participants, and link to a website. To get started, we need a UML model. So let's head over to the DATEX2 website and go to downloads for version 3.4 and scroll down to the model files. And I use Enterprise Architect 16, so I will use the QEA files. If you have 15 or earlier, use EAP files. And I will take the one with stable namespaces, this one. So I download this file and I open this file in Enterprise Architect. And I go down into the model, into extension. Here is where we like to place our extension. Open up the diagram and then I switch to the resources tab, because here we have the DATEX2 UML profile. And I'd like, and it's a recommendation to always put your extensions in your own namespace. So I would start by adding a D2 namespace to this diagram, and I will call this UF namespace like that. And we should also put in some stereotypes, a definition, and the prefix. We call this UFN. You can choose whatever you like, as long as it is unique, like that. Now we have our namespace defined, and I can switch back to my tree, and I see the namespace here. I would add the class diagram, so you have something to working on, like that, and it's open. And now we can start with our extension. I happen to know that there is a public event in DATEX. So I think our extension, and I know that we don't have a DATEX user forum in the model to start with, but public event, I think we can extend. So I would open up search model and choose extended search, search for public event. And here is the class, and I can find this in the browser, so I don't have to find it manually. I do like this, and then I switch back to my UF namespace, and I drag this public event class onto the diagram. So this is the class that I'd like to extend. And then resources, and add my extension class. Call this UF extension. And then I should take the UML construct for extensions, D2 level B extension, select that in resources, and connect these two classes like that. And we should not forget to add some definitions to our class. And then we can start to add our attributes and associations. And I think number of participants will be an integer. So we can start with that. I take a D2 attribute, drag it onto the class, drops it, call it number of participants, and I choose type. And I don't take the normal integer. Instead, I like to have the DATEX2 integer. If you don't see it here, you just search. And click yes. So now we have number of participants, and I also fill in some definition and the order number, which is 1. And then we should have some address information. And I would guess that DATEX2 have some address information. So I search. And I see a class address. That looks promising, I think. And I can find in diagrams, so I can see where it is defined. So it's somewhere in facility that has an address. And I see that it also has an address line. And it has city, country code, postal code. Yeah, I think that would do fine for us. So I right-click the class, find in project browser, so I can easily drag it onto the diagram like this as a link. And then we like to connect this to our extension, and then we'd use a D2 relation. So select D2 relation, and then I let this class and connect it to the extension. And then we should not forget that we have an order number on the association as well. And this sometimes doesn't show up at the right here. So you have to go into properties and choose tags below here. Then we have an order. We can choose one here as well, like this. We don't need a definition here. So, and then we have the URL left. And I would try again to search and see if we have something already. So we don't define something that is already defined. And I see that we have a URL link, but I think that has some extra information. So I would just go for the data type, I think. That would be fine for this. So here again, I take an attribute and drag it onto the class, call it URL, and the data type I select, I search for URL, and I choose a URL data type, like that. And I fill in some definition and the order number. This type I take 2 because we have now our participants have 1, so I take 2 here. And we could make the URL optional, so we change multiplicity to 0 to 1, like that. We now have to extend the public event type enum so it can have the value DATEX2 user forum. So I highlight this, go to definition. Oh, here it is. And then I drag this onto the diagram. It's a link, like that. And then we like to extend this because we don't have a DATEX2 in here, DATEX2 user forum inside. So I take D2 enumeration, that to the diagram, call this public event UF extension enum, something like that. And same way as for a class, we take the D2 level B extension and we connect these two. And then we don't forget to add definition. Just put something in. And then we add our literal. So we select from the resources, from the UML profile, D2 literal, drag that onto the enumeration, and call this DATEX user forum with no type. It's okay. And here as well, we should get the order number filled in. Don't show up on the right, so I take properties instead. Tag values, order, 1. Okay, we can add the definition as well. Or we have to, otherwise we get complaints in the tool. Like that. So now we have extended the public event type enum with our own enumeration with the literal DATEX user forum. And I save the diagram. We can switch back to the PowerPoint and see if we get everything that we have done, everything that we should. And we create an extension of public event. We extend the public event type enum, yes. We use address class. We added an attribute. And we had a link to a website. Yeah, we reuse the URL data type. Yes, I think we have everything. So now we have to export the UML model to XMI. And to do that, we go up the root namespace, D2 payload, select that in the tree, go to publish, export, XMI formats, choose 2.1. I have a file here, which I use, and hit export. And now, when it has finished, we are ready to switch over to the web tool and import our XMI. I will not use the predefined models now because this time I like to have our own model that we have just created with our extension. So I switch to the tab, your own model, and I select XMI. And this is the file I just created. And I hit next. And I don't have any selection file now, so I jumps to the profile. And I don't select any profiles here. I just go to step file directly, where we have the selection tree. And I will create a small profile now just holding our public event type, you could say. So I deselect everything, then go into situation publication, going down. Traffic element, activity, public event. And here we can now see our extension. So I will click, like I click here, and it selects everything that is its needs upwards. And I can look inside and I see number of participants, URL and address. We take all that, we go up and we check location reference, what we have here. I would just like to have we could choose coordinate for display, and a point would be enough for this, point by coordinates, like that. Then I go to step 6 and I choose to have the selection file returned. In case I like to or have to run this several times, I don't have to do the selection one more time. I click finish. And we take a quick look at the log. If you see any warnings, it becomes very red, but it's no warnings. It looks fine. And the schema was downloaded. So I extract the content of this zip file. And this is the content extracted. And we can take a look at the situation XSD, which I have here in XML Spy. Let's look at the public event. We see here that it has a public event type. We can see the enumerations below here that it has the standard types. And we see it as an extension that we have created probably. Extended value could be of type DATEX user form. So here it is our extension. And inside the extension, we can see the number of participants, the URL, and the address. So this looks very good, as I expected. We can also take a look at our namespace, which has its own schema. And here we can see our UF extension, which is the same as we saw in the other schema, because they reference each other. So now let's test this. I have prepared an XML instance of a public event, which uses a non-extended 3.4 XML schema. We can see here it's a public event. It has some times. It has a start time. It has a point and some coordinates. And it's a beer festival. And this schema, or this instance, validates. Here, check the validation. If it's green here, it's a valid instance to 3.4 schema. I can start to check if will this instance validate against our extended schema. Can do this by assign another schema and choose this schema, which is my extended schema. And hit validate again, and it validates. I can then save this file and put this in extended. We can create an instance for our extension. And to start with, I change the schema now. So now we are using our extended schema. It validates. And we can start by changing the public event type. And here we can choose something different. You could choose something that is similar to your what you have. But in this case, I would choose just an extension or extended. And we like to have the DATEX2 user forum here. So we use extended value and it finds the DATEX user forum. Great. And then we should have the extension class. So I take a new line and public event extension is available. So I would import that and we find our extension and we can enter number of participants. Let's set 123. And we can add the address information. And now it doesn't find our namespace. And because we have our extension in its own namespace. So what I used to do is to open up the payload schema and copy the definition from our namespace. This one. I copy that, go to my instance, in the namespace definition, put it here. And then it gives me, it finds the namespace so it knows what's inside this one. So I have a postcode, 1, 3 as well. And we can have a city. Let's say it's Paris. And we could add language. This is in Swedish. What more? City had some country code. France. I don't add anything more. And we can also put in the URL, of course. TPS datex2.eu. Well, that's enough. I save and I can validate. It validates just fine. And now we can test to switch back to the unextended schema and see if that also validates. Go to schema, assign schema, switch back to this schema. And this also validates. So now we have checked that our extension will not break a level A client. So we are finished. To sum up, we have created a DATEX2 extension. We use the web tool to generate an XML schema. And we have created an XML instance to test, and we also checked some validation between level A and level B. So that's it. Thank you for watching.